Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. My name is Cody Sizemore and I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, Maria Casillas. And today, I think that we're gonna slow down a little bit and just enjoy the silence. Are you ready? I'm just kidding. That'd be awkward if we just sat here. Anyways, we are going to slow down a little bit, though. We are going to slow down. It's going to be a good conversation, one that I think is very much needed, probably for a lot of people who are going to be listening today. So I'm excited to get into it. But before we do that, if this is your first time listening to this episode, I'm sorry for the weird, awkward pause there. We don't normally do that. But hey, glad that you're here. Hopefully you get some value from today. And if you do, why don't you go check out the other episodes that we've released, because we have over 200 of them. So if you like this one, you could go down the rabbit hole and you could have so much fun. But regardless, we're just hoping that you have fun today and that we're glad that you're here today as well. But if you are someone who's been listening for a while, maybe you listen periodically, maybe you listen every single week, we want to say welcome back. And if you are one of those people who listen every single week, you are what we call our every weekers, and we really appreciate you because you are what keeps this show going. So regardless if this is your first time or your 233rd time listening to this show, which would be every single episode of this, we just want to say thank you. And, if you could do us a favor and share the show, leave a rating, leave a review, whatever, your heart desires, we would really appreciate that, because we don't make money off of this. We don't run any ads. We kind of just do it because we know that this is a need that's needed to be filled. So we do appreciate you there. And if you haven't yet joined our free Facebook group, you're more than welcome to do that. You can say hi, you can ask questions, you can have suggestions for episodes for the show. That Facebook group is free to join, and it's called The Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. So go ahead and join in, say hi, ask a question, drop a comment, whatever you need to do, and we'll be happy to connect with you and start a new relationship there. So with that being said, Maria, how are you doing? And what are we talking about today?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Well, we're actually going to be talking about the needs, filling in the gaps. I know you're like, what does that have to do with slowing down? But you mentioned that we even started this podcast just so we could start to meet the needs that we didn't see being met. And so I'd like to just take this in a direction where we talk about being able to sort of take care of ourselves, take care of our clients, take care of our businesses in a way that seems a little bit counterintuitive. And that's basically the idea of slowing down so that you can speed up. How's that sound?
I love it.
Okay, that's awesome. So this kind of
love it.
well, now I'm just going to talk really, really fast because you're going to do the slow and I'll do the fast. No, not. I promise we won't do that. So I don't even remember who to credit this for. I did not come up with the idea of slowing down to speed up. There was some relevant author, I think, who had mentioned it. But I do remember hearing that probably 2-3 years ago. And it really resonated with me, Cody, because I don't know about you, but I'm that type. Maybe it's because I'm a maternal type, but when I see a need, I kind of intuitively want to fill that need. And it can get to the point where I say yes to things that are really smart in the moment. And then I hang on to those things and they're no longer serving me or they're no longer serving the people who they were meant to serve in the beginning. And I realized that it's literally slowing me down because I have too much on my plate. And so I'm in a time right now, just over the last couple months, where I'm having to just really take some inventory and say, what are some of the things that I not only enjoy, but am also doing really well at, or that are important to, whether it's myself, to my spouse, to my family. And what am I able to just let go of? What can I just say? I don't really need to do this anymore. Who is it going to hurt? Maybe it will. Like if I were to just say, you know what, I'm not going to do this podcast anymore. Are there people who it would affect? I hope so. I mean, I hope that there are listeners who are saying, I'd actually be kind of sad and I wouldn't be getting that value anymore. But I also know that that's something that if it's going to give more harm to me than it will to the audience, then it's time to say no. I'm not saying no to this. I'm just using this as an example.
Hmm.
But I use it as the example because it was created as a need at one point. That's what we're answering. It got me to thinking, Cody, that I think as coaches, we intuitively know this concept. Whether we heard it coined before about slowing down to speed up, we know as we're working with our clients that if they've got too many things they're working on at once,
Hmm.
it's going to oftentimes feel like they're not getting any traction on any one of those things.
Mm.
So they might be getting overall net traction, but if they can't see it in any one given area, it can really mess with them psychologically. Would you agree with that statement?
I 100% agree because I've experienced that before.
Okay. In your personal life or as a coach with your clients or both?
I would say my personal life, but that kind of includes the business as well because that's a huge part of my life, you know?
Yeah, true.
Um, but to be black and white, personal life. Yes.
Okay. All right. So do you have experienced similar things to me then? Like there's this
Yeah.
time when you've
Hmm.
just taken on too much or you're not seeing advancements in any one given area.
Yep.
Okay. How recent has that been? Just out of curiosity.
So last year, I actually went through a period of time where I called it, I literally coined it.
Oh,
As I was talking to like my wife and people I needed to have these conversations with, I said that I'm in a season of unloading.
oh.
Um, so, there was a few things that like, at that time I was on like 4 different teams, volunteer teams at the church.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was doing my business, but I was also helping the the business coach that I hired actually help with his business as well and like coach some of his clients. Um, there's a number of things. So I went to the church and I was like, hey, instead of doing all 4 of these teams, I'm gonna do 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the business coach and I said, hey man, I love helping you out here, but I need to focus on my business and so on and so forth, right? And it was challenging to have those conversations because it's not something I wanted to do. I enjoyed doing those things,
Right.
but it was something that I needed to do. And after I
Mm-hmm.
did it, I felt much better. Much
Mm-hmm.
better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
about a year ago.
Okay. Okay. So that's a lot, not quite as recent as mine. And since I'm kind of in the thick of doing those things, but I'm smiling and nodding over here because it's very, very similar. Just that whole idea. Oh, I got into this to help so and so, or I got into it to help myself. I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
pretending to be some saint who's always just super altruistic. I will sometimes do things in order to whether to make a little bit of extra money or to, take on this thing because I want to learn this thing but eventually, that really solid good thing is not necessarily serving the purpose that it was originally set out to serve, and so it is okay to sort of let go of some of that stuff. Why is it, do you think, that even though as coaches we intuitively know this, we know this whether it's just because we've had experience with it ourselves or maybe we have a background in psychology and we understand the human mind, whatever the reason is, we know that this is the case with our clients. What do you think makes it so difficult for us as coaches to actually help our clients go through that season of unloading, to use your coined phrase?
Can you say it again or
Yeah,
rephrase it?
what do you think makes it so difficult for us as coaches to walk our clients through that season of unloading?
To help our clients walk through it, I would
Yeah.
say that because we don't know how much time we have with these clients, number one.
Mhm.
Um, and number two is that, like, they're signing up for a service, they're paying for a service. We would hope that it would be something that is a net positive for them, right?
Mhm.
That they get the
Mhm.
most out of it, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I think that we as coaches, we're so like, okay, let's do this, then let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Because we don't know how long we have with them. And we also want to make sure that it was something that they look back at and they have a good experience with because it's all results with. right?
Mhm.
But that can lead to us being very, very fast paced. And that might be a problem sometimes.
That's a really, really solid observation, I think, because to your point, we don't know how long we have, and then we promised results, so we want to be able to see those. We want to hurry on up and get those out of the way just in case that we don't see them for much longer. And it can feel very overwhelming. It's very much like, when you give up everything in a diet, for example, then you're very, very quickly going to go back to likely binging because we're just pendulum swingers. Like that's that's
Hmm.
what we do. And so if we as coaches have a hard time keeping our clients sort of in that middle ground, if we bring them too far over one way, they will obviously swing the pendulum the other way. So there's that idea of how do we help them to slow down and just focus on that one thing. And I know over the last couple of weeks, we've actually talked a little bit about, being able to prioritize what people's exciting things are, what maybe the things that they weren't able to do in the regular budget because now they've got some tax money. Um, and we've talked about how to help them identify some of those areas. So when it comes to slowing down for them and being able to really focus, I would think that most, especially new coaches and or ones this is their niche, like very much like I think it is for you, Cody, that the initial desire is, well, let's just pay off a bunch of debt. Like just that's what we're going to focus on. But even in that realm, I mean, you hear, Ramsey talk about this often, but he wasn't the one who initially started it. But that whole idea of like the snowball, the whole purpose behind the snowball is that you're focusing on one item so that you can then not have to worry about the other one. You're still dealing with them, you're paying them, but at a minimal amount, right? So that you can get excited and see this one and it speeds up that process. So I think since we know this as coaches, one of the things I'd like to talk about today is how do we apply this to our business, our coaching business, where we are able to sort of treat it like that snowball in a sense, where we're able to just kind of focus on one thing. We're doing the other things, but we're doing those to the point where it's not minimally, but sort of, where it's like we have to do the things, like we have to do a little bit of marketing, we have to do a little bit of bookkeeping, etc. But this is the thing that if we focus on this, it's going to help speed up our business. I have an idea of what I think you might say will be that one area. I'm
Hmm.
just curious as to what do you think that is for many of the coaches who are listening to us today?
So I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule,
Mm-hmm.
which is like, whatever you put, 20%, or usually, I forgot exactly how it is, but it's like there's usually one thing that gives you 80% of your results,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at least in my experience, through the way that I run and have crafted my practice, the number one thing there would be outreach,
Mm-hmm.
starting conversations, whether it be through text, whether it be through calls, email, direct messages, whatever it might be. The amount of time that I invest into just talking to people is so much more than anything else that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else.
Yep. I figured you would go there.
Yep.
And I'm actually really glad that you did because I do think that all of those other things are important. And
Agreed.
yet I think they yield the least results. It might make you look legit, right? You might
Hmm.
have this great website set up. You might have the way for people to contact you. You might have payment processing, all of those things. You might have a great marketing system. All of those things can be very important. But if you put all of your time and effort into those, then you're going to have a really, really solid looking business. But
Hmm.
chances are it won't be a solid moving business. So you want to make sure that you're putting your time and effort into the thing that's going to help you move that. So would it be okay to just not do any of that stuff? If you have to choose between doing none of it, as long as you can then focus all your time on conversations, I would actually say, yeah, it's okay. Because chances are you're going to get more business from those conversations than you ever will from a solid website. It's
Hmm.
just the way human nature is these days. And so, if you are needing to take things off of your plate, you have permission to do that. You have permission to take those few business things off of your plate. If you don't need to take them off completely, just do the minimal and focus on the thing that's going to help actually speed up your business.
Hmm. So, a perfect example of this with my practice is that about a year ago, we had a conversation on the show about this. Actually, I really started to take the whole like video content and TikTok in particular
I remember that.
very seriously,
Hmm.
right? And I did that very seriously for probably like 6 months, kind of thing. But then I had all of these life things happen to me, and I had to navigate through all of that. And that was one of the things I had to offload. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten back into it quite yet. I want to. Um, but I saw that as like a big picture thing to where it's like, hey, if I do this consistently and I have fun with it and I'm creative with it, I will then build an audience, which then, will um, allow my outreach to be better. It will, um, you know, give me more authority in the market as well. And hopefully it will even create like more organic leads from it,
Hmm.
right? But it's definitely a very big picture thing. Um, but I was like, that's right now. I can't focus on you know a year or 2 years down the road of seeing the fruits of that. I need to see fruits right now. You
Hmm.
know, and the thing that's going to drive that for me is starting conversations. You know what I mean? So I offloaded that because I needed to, not because I wanted to.
Hmm.
And because of that, I was able to put more focus into what was actually going to drive me results. And
Yeah.
it worked in my favor in that way.
Yeah. Well, I think what I most appreciate about that example, Cody, is that there is this idea we know it's not the thing that's bad. There's nothing inherently bad about any of those things that I mentioned or that you are now mentioning. In fact, it's actually good to go and look at big picture, right? I mean, it's important to see
Hmm.
what I do today, how will that affect things tomorrow and beyond? That's actually very prudent of us to do, and it's a wise thing for us to do. So none of these things are inherently bad. It's just when you get to that point, as you mentioned you did, where you're like, I gotta make a choice right now because something is gonna break if I don't give it up. And so you took that very intentional approach to decide, what do I need right now and how can I make that work? And it's not that you'll never go back to doing your TikTok videos or whatever it is at the time, whenever you're ready, that is going to be the thing that drives your business in that direction. Um,
Hmm.
but there's that recognition of we only have so much time, we only have so much resources, and we're going to use those in a way that serves us in the long run the best.
Hmm.
And sometimes that means slowing down. And it I think the idea of here slowing down to speed up really is that we're slowing down right now, knowing that that will show faster progress later. We're not going to see the fast progress necessarily right now.
Yeah. 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 I think that the main thing is that we should focus on the things that are going to push us further the most. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't focus on the big picture things at all. It's
Right.
not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that if you find yourself in a place to where you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you're pulled in too many directions, you feel like you're crossing things off and you're doing things, but you're not really seeing, the greater fruit from that, or you're not feeling as fulfilled from it either,
Hmm. Hmm.
then that might be a sign to slow down and to offload and to be totally okay with that. And if there's people who are involved in those decisions, like in my example of my church, there was people who were directly affected by that. We just need to be okay with that and just
Yeah,
understand that, like, just because you take a step back does not mean that everything is going to fall and come crashing down for whoever
that's
you
correct.
you were involved with. Like, you're not that special, like, you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
um which is something to make sure that remember too. But take care of yourself. That's the main thing. If you take care of yourself first, then the people who are around you that you serve or that you are involved with will then also benefit from that too.
Yeah. And I was actually going to say, as you were talking, that even even if we don't think that other people are going to be affected, other people are being affected. So if you are worried about affecting the people at your church, for example, and you're worried about, hurting their feelings or making their lives harder, it's okay to step back and go, if I continue to do that, whose life am I making harder? Because there's someone's life you're making harder. Someone is, you know, um, suffering from your overcommitment to this other place. And in my case, it might be my kids. If I overcommit over here because I don't want to disappoint this person or this group of people, ultimately I'm disappointing my kids or I'm taking away something from them. And I have to go, which one of those am I called to actually serve more? Am I called to serve the people in my church? Yes. Am I also called to serve my own family? Absolutely. And given the opportunity to, save one or the other, I'm more called to steward my family. So I think that's the other piece of that too, is that, we can get very lost in thinking, well, if I don't do this, I'll do this. And with our clients, we see it. Like, you can't pay Discover and also pay this other one the same amount with limited resources. So if someone's going to suffer, who's that going to be?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Well, on that
Just
happy note,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? It's kind of funny to me. As we sit here, I always have my window, not window open, but my curtains are open all the time. And I live in Arizona, which is typically quite sunny.
Hmm.
Today, at the time of this recording, it is pouring rain outside. So I'm wondering if, like, maybe that just dampened my entire conversation right there. I didn't mean to go in a negative negative direction, but no, I'm actually really glad that we had this conversation because I think it's one of those things that doesn't get talked about enough. And I think
Hmm.
people, especially entrepreneurs and everyone who's listening today, if you're a coach, you have that entrepreneurial spirit. I think that there's this fear of just being able to say, you know what, I can't. I'm not going to do that today. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And I'm going
Hmm.
to draw that boundary. And so I'm glad we had the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. We hope to catch you on the next one. We release one every single Monday, and we have for the last 233 Mondays. So hopefully we have another 233 ahead of us. But regardless, we're just happy that you're here today. So with that being said, listen to your heart, listen to your soul. If you feel like there's something that you need to offload, go ahead and do it. I think that you'll feel the fruits from that. So, um,
Amen.
so again, thanks for listening to this episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast.
Catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.